proprietary software does a really good job of being everything to everybody. Right, when somebody goes and pitches, something for a proprietary side, they'll say yes to everything. Where in open source, we'll say, well, we do this really well, and yeah, it'll integrate, and that's no problem. But we don't sell it as the end all. Right, we sell it as it's a solid player, and this is what we could do with it, and we feel comfortable, and this is because that's just our way of approaching things. We're a community of good people, where on the other side, and this is when they sell the Internet of Things, there are platforms out there that are we're going to control the world, and they won't let you do anything but control the world. Right, everything has to go through their system. Everything they can do everything, and they get you on it, and it's too late once you realize that it only gets you about 75% of the way there. So we have to sell it differently.
And so this is where the argument of the open web and silos comes in, right? And obviously Drupal is pushing for the open web, because with these silos, say your marketing platform is on Facebook, right? If you want to do anything above and beyond what Facebook allows you to do, you can't. You're stuck within their platform. Yeah. And so
that's
as we
their
push
audience.
Exactly. And if you want to reach that audience, you have to pay for it.
I
even though
believe
they
the quote
follow
was,
you.
if you didn't pay for it, you are the product.
Right. That's very true.
But
all those Facebook followers that you have can go in an instant. It's a reality that I think a lot of small business owners and medium-sized enterprises, they don't realize. If that page goes away, your whole platform that you spend all that money on is gone.
I liked what both of you two just said a second ago, which is kind of that's one of the main value adds of open source. I had a conversation on Friday with a particular client or gentleman that's been my client 3 times in the past, but his new startup company is not my client. And so he went with an open, a quote-unquote open platform, and I'm putting air quotes around it, that would get him on all of these different devices for his, he's basically doing an MCN. So he had a video platform that did all of these different things, and he was really, really stoked and really excited when he first told me about it. And now he's like ready to go, and he wants them to make some changes, and they told him no, and he can't do anything. Whereas the initial platform that I was originally pitching him was, we'll start off with just, responsive web like normal. We can throw an Android or iOS layer on top of it. It'll be nice and simple, and then you'll be able to do whatever you want to.
And you can pivot when you need to.
Right, you can pivot when you need to. And now he's sitting there going, I can't get him to do the things I want it to do. And I'm like, dude, I would have told you could do whatever you wanted to, bro. I got no limitations. Like, you want it, we'll build it. You know what I mean? And
but there's a cost to that as well.
There is.
Because you don't benefit from the other 100 clients that are also asking for something.
The initial bid for him was going to end up being about 100 large to just kind of do a very simple CMS with a simple video object or a couple of simple video apps layered on top of that. And it did save him $100,000 up front. But now he's to a place where he wants to actually start monetizing his assets and doing a lot of those different things that he's unable to do, and he's probably going to end up paying $100,000 anyways. Well, if that kind of makes sense, because he can't take it where he needs to.
Not to knock anyone, but if you're building a business, you shouldn't be building on someone else's platform. You need to build your own.
Well,
it's a
very good point, right? Here you are. All your technology is owned by somebody else, and you're assuming, of course, that company's going to be around forever. You're also assuming that you're a large enough client that you can drive them in to do what you need them to do. Right. And I don't know. Most clients are not that big. We are actually building a Java application right now because one of our large media companies, the third-party system that they paid for, went out of business. Went out of business. They gave them the software, so they're running the software, but they have to replicate it, and they have to replicate it soon because if it fails, there's no way they can touch it. It just goes down. So we're busy replicating the whole thing so that they don't have this point of failure. And it's great because we'll build it. It'll integrate into Drupal without a problem, which is 100 of their other websites, and it'll be able to sit in there and integrate without any issue. but it's on a different technology. And very few other proprietary systems will allow another technology to come in and play nice.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful tool, but you got to pay the $100,000 up front, which is killing us because that's a big investment.
nut.
Yeah. So, which if you can just sign on for $2,500 and, boom, here I am, that's great.
And that's basically what the guy did, by the way.
Yeah.
It was, I don't think it was 2,500. I think he paid 10.
Yeah.
For the whole platform out the gate. But
Get some 10, but maybe that's the business side of it. He should go 10, because if you're starting a business, you put in a little bit of money. It's basically your, MVP, and you get it tested, and then you move it over.
yeah, for the time, I think he probably actually did make the right decision.
Yeah.
But since he was successful, now it's the wrong decision.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
yes,
At this point now.
he has
Yeah.
to know that going into it, though.
He did.
The context of having the conversation with those kinds of people, and when we have those conversations, like, look, hosted service, build your own. This will probably give you runway for 6 months if you don't want to build it right now.
Right.
And then prove that it works, and then come back to this later. But prove that it works, right?
I have a hard
He
time
did
just...
get his second round of funding.
There you go. People have a hard time with just the minimum viable product
Yeah.
concept. And it's really not the developers or the engineers, it's the CFO, right? The CFO wants it all done because he wants to write one
Want a
check
fixed
and be
price.
done
Want to
with it,
spend it
right?
twice.
Yeah, and as much as we tell them, how do you know you're going to need this 6 months from now? Because you can't even tell us your requirements today. We're building you a platform for something that we're guessing at.
Right.
You're asking us to guess
Right.
at. We're building, it's working, you get it running, and chances are 6 months or 8 months from now, you're going to realize, hey, this piece that is sitting over here is making me a lot of money, and I didn't put any effort at all into it. Okay, now I'm going to pivot and go that way. Well, you can't do that if you build the whole dream, the 2-year plan up front. Then you've built the 2-year plan, and 50% of it's not being used.
Yeah.
But sometimes these executives, marketing, CFO, et cetera, get so hung up on the overall, we want to do it once, we want to do it, so that
We want to do it once, and it has to be done right the first time.
Right.
This is the experience that we're supposed to have, right?
Well,
That's
we
the-
do,
That's the
but,
sales point for CMOs.
right. But
Having a package.
getting people to buy into that
Right.
is the hard part. And I don't know, this is where I think proprietary software really kills it, is because they already have the package, right? Even it might be twice as much, or a 3-year commitment, which is just silly. They're selling, $10,000 a month or $100,000 a month on something that's already built, and that's what we want, whether they use it or not.
Yeah.
And I don't have I've been looking at this, trying to figure this out for years, and I just don't have an answer for open source. But I do think that's a part of our big challenge. I don't know where we're going with that.
Yeah, well, the value proposition is freedom, right? It's the open web. It's the freedom to do what we want to do with the applications
Right.
we build. But obviously, there's the cost.
And ownership, right? They own it at the end of the day.
I think one of the other things too that I've started to sell as a value proposition of open source is that there's no vendor lock-in either. So like I can honestly look a client in the eye and tell them, look, my boys follow the rules, and if at the end of the project you don't like me,
Right.
hire Achieve.
Right.
Because I guarantee his team could pick up my code and just be like, hey,
Yeah.
and they would just keep running. As long as we're following the Drupal rules and Drupal standards, there's no vendor lock-in.
Or
Versus
better
like-
yet, you can hire internally.
right, anybody you
Right.
feel like.
Because
you
we don't
can
really want
hang.
to do your maintenance.
Sure.
Right? We want you to do your maintenance, right? We want to build your next ambitious goal, because that's what we're really good at. But to do your maintenance, you should hire internally or a subcontractor, or I'll get India to do it.
My point there was more that
Yeah.
you're not locked in. Like I had this other client that hired an engineer to develop a 100% custom system, and the engineer was on a scale of 1 to 10 about a 2.5 or a 3, and so the whole thing is completely a worthless platform. And now my team is going in and reverse engineering the worthless platform
Right.
to then move them out of the worthless platform into something that's solid. And they're literally having to pay I'm gonna call it a $30,000 tax, if you will, on just my boys figuring out
Yeah.
what that last guy was thinking. You know what I mean? And with Drupal, as long as my team followed the rules, I can look at a client in the eye and guarantee them that that will never happen. Like you could, to Ron's point, hire internal staff. You could hire a competitor. You could do anything
Right.
you want to and just, you're not locked in. Whereas that client that I was referencing that wrote the proprietary software that only worked for them,
Yep.
like that realistically was, a couple $100,000 mistake, pretty much. Because by the time she's done, the cost to her business, the cost of my bills, the
Yep.
cost of the bills she had previously, all of those costs are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Compared to if she would have just hired us to do it in Drupal to begin with.
One of the things with Drupal has always been we can't find enough developers. I don't know. How do you guys?
Developers in general are just.
I'm back
true.
to building them again.
All right. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
for a very long time we were in the business of growing our staff, but
Yeah.
we've found success in the projects that we've done, and we don't market, we don't sell. We basically get all our work through word of mouth.
Right.
You do good work, people start to refer work to you, and so we're basically.